There is something inside you that has been running the show for a very long time. Not a person, not a memory, not even a feeling exactly. A belief, a single, quiet, persistent belief that arrived so early and settled in so completely that you stopped being able to see it as a belief at all. It became the water you swam in, the air you breathed, the invisible architecture that shaped every decision, every expectation, every version of yourself you allowed to exist. And while you were living inside it, while you were organizing your life around it without knowing that was what you were doing, it was taking something from you, not all at once, slowly. The way a slow leak takes water from a tank, not dramatically, not in a way that announces itself, but consistently, day after day, until one morning you look and realize that something that was supposed to be full is not. That belief stole years from you. Real years. Years that were yours and could have been lived differently, more fully, more honestly, more in contact with the actual texture of who you are. And it did it without your permission, without your knowledge, and without ever once identifying itself as the thief it was. I want to name it today, because a thief you can see is a thief you can stop. The belief is this, that your life has a shape, a fixed shape, that there is a trajectory it was supposed to follow, a sequence of phases with known contents and known durations, and that where you are now is where the shape says you should be, which is closer to the end than the beginning, more behind than ahead, more about maintaining what exists than creating what does not yet. The belief says the best of it is back there, behind you, in the years of building and striving and possibility wide open. And where you are now is the part that comes after the best part, the managing part, the winding down part, the part where you accept, gracefully and without too much complaint, that the most alive chapters of your story have already been written. That belief has been inside you for longer than you can trace. It arrived through 100 different channels, the way older people were treated in your family, in your culture, in every story you absorbed about what a life was supposed to look like from the outside. It was confirmed every time the world directed its energy and attention and excitement towards someone younger. Every time you felt yourself becoming background rather than foreground. Every time you caught yourself speaking about your own desires in the past tense without deciding to. And the most devastating thing about it, the thing that makes it so effective as a thief, is that it felt like wisdom. It felt like the mature, clear-eyed acceptance of reality. It felt like what an honest person does when they stop running from the facts of their situation and simply look at them squarely. It felt like peace, because it removed the friction of wanting things that the belief said were no longer available to you. But that was not peace. That was surrender dressed in the clothing of wisdom, and there is a cost to that kind of surrender that does not show up immediately, that accumulates quietly over months and years, until one day you look up from the life you have been managing and feel, in the specific and unmistakable way of genuine loss, that something that was supposed to be there is not. That feeling is the bill the belief sends. Eventually. Always. Here is what I want you to understand about that belief and where it actually came from. It did not come from your life. It came from a story about lives in general, an abstract, generalized narrative about what human existence looks like from a distance, applied wholesale to the specific and irreplaceable reality of your particular existence. It was handed to you as universal truth, and you accepted it as such because you had no reason not to, because everyone around you had accepted the same thing, because the story was so pervasive that questioning it would have felt like arguing with gravity. But it was never gravity, it was a story, and stories can be changed. Your life does not have a fixed shape, it has the shape you give it, not the shape the culture assigned based on your age. Not the shape that fear constructed to protect you from disappointment, not the shape that other people's expectations carved out of the space around you while you were busy surviving everything life asked of you. Your shape, made from the inside, from what is actually true about who you are when no one is telling you who that should be. Think about what the belief cost you specifically, not in abstract terms, in real ones. Think about the conversations you did not have, because the belief told you the time for that kind of honesty had passed. The relationships you did not pursue, because the belief said that kind of investment no longer made sense at this stage. The mornings you did not meet with any sense of forward momentum, because the belief had quietly removed the future as a place worth moving toward. The desires you talked yourself out of, not because they were impossible, but because the belief had already decided they were inappropriate, and you had learned to trust the belief more than you trusted yourself. Those are not small things. Accumulated over years, they are the substance of a life. They are the difference between a life inhabited and a life managed, between a person present in their own existence and a person watching it from a careful distance. The belief created that distance. It has been maintaining it ever since. And here is the thing about distance. It feels safe. It feels like protection. If you do not get too close to your own life, if you do not want too much or reach too far or invest too deeply in what remains, then the loss of it when it comes will be more manageable. The belief offers you a kind of emotional insurance, reduced risk in exchange for reduced living. That is a terrible trade. And the belief never told you that was what it was asking for. You were never offered the choice explicitly. You were simply handed the belief along with everything else the world hands you before you know how to evaluate what you are receiving. And then you lived inside it for decades, shaping yourself around it, until the shaping became so complete that the belief and the self were indistinguishable. But they are not indistinguishable. They never were. You are not the belief. You are the person the belief has been operating on. And that person, underneath the years of accumulated shaping, underneath the acceptance and the reduction and the graceful winding down, is still entirely capable of something the belief insists is no longer available, a life chosen from the inside, a life whose shape comes from what is actually true about you, rather than from what a story about aging decided in advance, a life that treats the years ahead not as epilogue, but as territory, real, unmapped, available territory that belongs entirely to you. The belief stole years from you. That is true, and it cannot be undone, and sitting with that truth for a moment is part of what honest reckoning requires. But it has not stolen today. It has not stolen this moment, this breath, this particular point in time where you are still here, still reading, still capable of the one thing the belief was most desperate to prevent. Deciding that the belief was wrong. It was wrong. About you, about your life, about what is available to you from here, about the shape that the remaining years are allowed to take. It was wrong, and you do not have to keep living as if it was right. The years it took are gone. What remains is yours. Take it back. I want to tell you what taking it back actually looks like, because taking it back is not a dramatic gesture. It is not a declaration or a transformation or a reinvention that announces itself to the world. Those things belong to a different kind of story. This story is quieter and more real than that. Taking it back looks like noticing the belief when it surfaces. And it will surface. It has been running so long and so deeply that it does not simply stop because you have seen it. But seeing it changes the relationship. A belief you can observe is no longer a belief you are entirely inside. The moment you can watch it operating, the moment you can catch yourself thinking the time for that has passed and recognize that thought as the belief rather than as truth, you have created a distance between yourself and it that did not exist before. That distance is where your life gets to happen. In that distance, small things become possible that were not possible before. Not grand things. Small, real, specific things. A conversation you have been postponing that you stop postponing. A morning you meet differently, with some quality of attention that is oriented toward rather than away. A desire you stop dismissing before it finishes forming, and let it exist long enough to ask whether it is actually yours. These are not dramatic. They do not look like a new life from the outside. But from the inside, they feel like exactly what they are. A person coming back into contact with themselves after a long absence. The particular and irreplaceable sensation of inhabiting your own existence rather than observing it from a managed distance. The belief will resist this. It has been protecting you, in its way, from the vulnerability of wanting things that might not happen and reaching for things that might not be there. It will offer you its familiar arguments. It will point to your age, to the years behind you, to the reasonable limits of what is still realistic. It will try, as it always has, to make reduction feel like wisdom. You know now that it is not wisdom. You know what it is. And knowing is not nothing. Knowing is, in fact, everything, because you cannot take back what you cannot see, and you can now see it clearly for what it has always been. A thief that convinced you it was a guide. It was never a guide. You are your own guide. You always were. And the direction you were always meant to move in was not toward less, but toward more. More presence, more honesty, more contact with the actual life that is available to you right now, in this body, at this age, with this history. More of yourself given freely to yourself, without the belief standing between you and what was always yours. The years it took cannot be returned. but the life ahead of you has not been touched by it yet. That life is clean. It is open. It is waiting for the version of you that finally knows what has been running in the background all this time. Go live it. The belief has had enough.